Hello, what is up everybody? It is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, and this time I don't have Mighty with me this time around though, just because after the events of the atrocious Let's Play we've ever done, which is Warrior Master of Disguise, that's only mainly because of these very awkward controls, and also the gameplay style which I'm not a big fond of, although it's an interesting idea, but ultimately though we are going to be moving on to a much more better game than the forms of how it does it on Warrior Master of Disguise. So in some cases though, here we are on to the forms of the next installment in terms of the Metroid series of Let's Plays. Here we are on to probably some people seem to say that this is one of the best 2D Metroid games of all time, which appears to be Super Metroid. First came out in 1994 for the Super Nintendo, or Super Famicom for those of you who lived in Japan, and this game was technically originally going to be called Metroid 3, as you probably can tell from the actual intro cutscene. So in some cases though, yeah, I'm actually very looking forward to doing this game for you guys. Originally, we were expecting to be able to do this at some point in the very beginning of December, but it's slightly pushed forward a little bit until today, which is at the very end of November. In some cases though, today's day is of course the 30th of November, which I'll discuss more details about that in a moment. So, anyways, as you can see, we got ourselves the file selection screen, similar to the fonts of how it does it on Metroid 2, Return of Samus, except this time, we're going on to the Super Nintendo. So in some cases though, yeah, let's go ahead and select Samus A, so just in case we can able to actually get the thing started. And as you can see, we actually got tons of modes we can able to fiddle around with, like the control setting modes, as well as the special setting mode, and even especially noticeable, there are some European language text shown up. Which, as you probably already know, this is the PAL version of this game, because in comparison to the American version, you do have the option to be able to select into either the English text or Japanese text. So in some cases though, it's kind of similar to the forms of how it does it in one of those games they do manage to have like alternate subtitles or something like that. But either way though, that's as far as saying goes, that's pretty much as far as I can say about it. So anyways though, so let's get to it with Super Metroid.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
Very impressive of how the voice actor was on this. So I first battled the Metroids on Planet Zebes. It was there that I followed the plans of the space pirate leader, Mother Brain, to use the creatures to attack galactic civilization. And this takes place in Metroid 1, after we did somehow take down Mother Brain and stuff like that. So I next thought the Metroids on their homeworld, SR388. I completely eradicated them except for a lava, which, after hatching, followed me like a confused child. And that particular line is actually based off from the flashback from the likes of the ending of Metroid 2, Return of Samus. Pretty swell, huh? I personally delivered it to the Galactic Research Station at Ceres, so scientists could study its energy productioning qualities. Yeah, sometimes I have to able to press the button quite a few times because it does show up the German text here and there on the bottom, as you can tell. The scientists' findings were outstanding. They discovered that the powers of the Metroid might be harmless for a good of civilization. Or harnessed, I meant to say. And this is how the actual story begins, as far as this is concerned. Satisfied at all was well, I left the station to seek a new bounty to hunt, but I had hardly gone beyond the asteroid belt when I picked up a distress signal. That could be only been one thing in mind. Ceres Station was under attack. So in some cases though, we're going to be heading back into, let's just say the space colony. At least as far as I can usually tell for this point. So, yeah, space colony. Or this other German word, which I can't really pronounce that very well. Well, that's only mainly because I don't normally speak Germany sometimes. But anyway, folks, here we are on Super Metroid. And as you can tell, it plays pretty much like the forms of how it does it on not only the original Metroid, but also Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. Although, we'll get to more details onto this later, because as you can tell, the actual space colony itself just feels a bit kind of abandoned around here. Well, aside from the fact that there might be some situations that of what's going on around here. So, in some cases though, we can still able to investigate this place. So, as soon as we're able to actually go for a serious amount of rooms before we do anything. So, in some cases though, we'll just go ahead and double check on that. You know what that particular lava Metroid that we've already come across into? Well, we just somehow meet up with him, so I wonder if we can able to actually pick him up though, although unfortunately we can't, so what the? Oh my god, it's you, Ridley! You just came back from the original Metroid! Like, I already killed you from before, but oh well, no big deal. So, I think this is kind of unbeatable for this boss fight, because all you have to really do is just keep shooting at him, or if you keep on getting a lot of damage on him, well, it still technically counts as a victory, but we'll come across into that situation until whenever we keep on, like, shooting Ridley with the actual, regular shot and all that stuff, so yeah, that's all you have to do for the sake of time. So again, you don't have to necessarily try to beat him though, it's just for a matter of the forms of the opening sequence or anything else like this, so but then again though, we'll probably talk more details about the actual gameplay details on this, and sure enough, he still technically got the actual Metroid itself, so he flies away with it, and on top of that, it looks like we got ourselves a self-destruct sequence. So in some cases though, we need to leave this place for about a minute, so but thankfully though, this area is actually pretty short though, so in some cases though, we can able to escape in no time, so well, as long as we can able to actually just do a bit of a jog going on around here. Well, again, there's not much lengthy moments here and there until whatever we get to later on though. But then again though, we'll discuss on that until whenever we proceed to this game, so but luckily though, these little air stuff, as far as you see, all those little steams right there, basically they don't hurt you, they just knock you back. So in some cases though, there's not much right to like worry about, aside from the fact that you get invincibility frames if you get pushed by these little steams and stuff like that. So yeah, that seems a little bit more erratic. So oh, and by the way, something's worth mentioning is the fact that, as you can tell in the actual background music, that will become stable in the future games, because that was actually introductioning to Ridley's theme. So yeah, it seems pretty cool though. So there goes the space colony, it just somehow got explodes. So for that matter though, we're going to be heading into Planet Zebes once again, except this time this is on the Super Nintendo, no longer on the NES. So because the thing is though, on the NES game, Metroid 1, that basically though, all you get is just the actual black background with all its like copy and paste rooms here and there. Well, despite the fact that usually it doesn't have a map back then, alongside with the forms of Metroid 2, Return of Samus. So in some cases though, as you can tell, we actually ended up on the actual Samus's mothership, as you can see, similar to the forms of how it does it on the forms of Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. But again, we'll talk more details onto that in a moment, but what you can do right here is the fact that you can able to save the game, and on top of that, it actually refuels your health meter. So, much like the forms of how it does it in Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, that basically though, when you start the game off, although before we get into more details onto that though, as you can tell, we've lost every single power-up, or in some cases upgrades again, but that's okay, because we'll surely will able to actually come across into them again, except we actually start the game off as in Criteria, in this case the new area which is actually introduced in this game. So in some cases though, there's not much right to home about, but we'll explain more, explore more about this place for criteria until later. So you're still able to come across into those familiar doors ever since in both Metroid 1 and Metroid 2 that you see there is actually a blue door, which all you have to do is just basically just shoot the blue door and that's it. And as you can tell, differently from the likes of both Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, that Samus' moveset is actually a little bit more upgraded this time. Because normally in the forms within the original Metroid, that you can only shoot in, I would say, 3 directions, within left, right, and up. I'm presuming so anyway. And then in Metroid 2, you're able to actually aim with 4 directions, meaning that you can able to shoot down, but you can't shoot diagonally. But this game this time around though, you can actually aim for about 8 different directions, which is actually very impressive, all things considering. And also we're going to be exploring this familiar place, for those who ever played the original Metroid before, called Turian, but as you can tell, the Turian itself feels a lot more deserted more than anything, so we need to head down here, and you might be familiar with this particular theme coming up, which, yeah, remember this room right here? Is actually pretty similar to the forms of how it does in the original Metroid, doesn't it? Which appears to be we're going back into Brimstar, and on top of that, if you go to the left, we meet again with the Morphing Ball, or Morph Ball to be more specific. But anyway though, that yeah, is on the exact same spot as the forms of how it does on the first game. Although this time we got ourselves a bit of a security light going on around here. So in some cases though, yeah, there's nothing we can do for this at the moment, so we can just shoot and then just keep on moving on to the right. And then if we keep on going on to this particular direction, and yeah, we can now able to shoot down, so that will be fantastic, all things considered. Especially noticeable, we can actually able to discover some more secrets. In fact, there's actually even more secrets here and there in this game this time around. So in some cases though, we've met again with the missile tanks, which much like the previous 2 games, if you come across into those missile expansions, you can able to actually just to go ahead and use the missiles. So, in order to able to activate them, is by simply once again selecting the select button on your Super Nintendo controller. So, yeah, nothing different from there, except this time we actually have more buttons to work with. So in addition to having ourselves, you know what I mean, the usual A and B buttons, directional pad, start and select, but now we have the L and R buttons alongside with the X and Y buttons, so that makes things a lot more interesting. And also there's the energy tank right up there, but we can't get to that though, because we do need able to get ourselves the special upgrade we need to get in order able to make it up there. So as you can see, there's another missile tank that we able to actually get, like, I would say you get like 5 missiles or something like that. Mind you, it has been a very long while since we've last played some bit of Metroid stuff, because, again, I'm pretty much used to playing Sonic Frontiers recently, and in fact I've pretty much almost 100% everything in not only the Switch version, but also the Xbox One versions as well. So in some cases though, we'll definitely save up the PS4 version for its Let's Play at some point until next year, so anyways, let's go ahead and leave. And, oh god, there are some space pirates! So it looks like those space pirates are about able to attack us now. So, yeah, we just have to able to make our way through for this point. And, well, we will be back for this until, in a later portion throughout this Let's Play. So don't worry. So, because much like the forms of how it does it on any other Metroid Let's Plays we've done, this will be the 100% completion playthrough, just for the sake of not only that we can able to actually get ourselves every missile expansions, but there's also some other new items that we can able to discover through. But again, we'll talk more about that until whenever we get to, like, let's just say for every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday uploading schedules. Despite that this game won't take that long, much like the forms of how it does it in the original game and the second game. But if we get into the Metroid Prime games on the other hand though, it will be very lengthy journey. But either way though, we'll point things out whenever we're able to get to that certain point. So anyways, let's go ahead and pick up some more health pickups, which if you do manage to able to obtain this little purple object, basically that means you're able to have some more health. So yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy and everything, so... Sometimes the controls might take a bit of practice at one form or another, but either way though, because of how the fact that I haven't completed the game yet though, on my own time, within not only the Wii Virtual Console version back in the day, but also with the forms of the Super Nintendo Classic Mini version as well. But I will probably get onto that though on my own time, so... And you see that pink door right there on the right? Well, that's when utilizing the missiles come into play. But before we get into that though, I need to double check if there are some things I was currently missing on. But it seems at this point in time, I don't think there's anything else missing as far as that's been concerned with, so... But I will try my best able to actually just be quick and fast as humanly possible, but we shall see. So, anyways, that pink door right there, in order to able to activate it, much like the forms of how it does it in both Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, basically you have to use super missiles, or no, sorry, the regular missiles, until we're able to actually open up the door, like you have to use about 5 of them, so... Yeah, you get the idea of how this is going. So, anyway, so we actually meet up with the forms of the introduction to a map data access. So in some cases though, differently from the likes of the previous 2 games, as I said before, we've now actually got a map. So this means you can now able to actually see what's beyond throughout the entire planet itself, in this case Planet Zebes. So in some cases though, we can able to explore multiple areas throughout the majority of the game. Like, we're still able to come across into Brimstar, as we've already discovered earlier, and there's going to be some of those other familiar locations, and even in some cases brand new areas throughout the majority of this journey. So, yeah, it should be pretty exciting, all things considered. Especially noticeable, I really love discovering stuff for the sake of the forms of the Metroid games, because, well, I just really love the sense of, like, this sci-fi action kind of vibe to it, so, well, that's just me anyway, though, so a few things I want to explain while this is happening, that, recently, about the fact of the matter is, though, is that the Disney film called, Treasure Planet has officially become, 20 years old recently. Despite the fact that I wasn't overly keen on the film, I must be honest here, I think it's probably because it's not my cup of tea. And on top of all that stuff though, this is one of those films that's also got box office bombed, just like the forms of how it does it on Atlantis The Lost Empire, which, despite the forms of the box office problems, I think it's alright. I mean, sure, it's not my cup of tea or anything, but it's just that, wow, I might be biased, I guess, when it comes to, like, certain films I'm not overly keen of, and all the other stuff. So, and this is where we get ourselves the actual bomb, where basically, if you turn to a Morph Ball bomb, and then you're able to actually set the Morph Ball bomb and anything else. But, as you can tell, we somehow got shut in, because we're going to be doing with technically a mini fight, which in some cases though, oh god, the Chozo statues come to life! So in some cases though, we need to able to take that Chozo, or in some cases though, well, you know what I'm saying, so... I think fundamentally speaking, this is actually the next boss fight, believe it or not. Well, I haven't exactly researched on this game all that much though, just because, again, been busy playing Sonic Frontiers, so, yeah, all you have to really do is just keep on shooting that Chozo statue, and then, that's basically all you have to do here. And he explodes into pieces, and... suffice to say, not only does he explode to death, but also he gets some health back. So, that's pretty nice, all things considered. Especially that, unlike in the previous 2 games, that I don't think you can able to get a health pickup if you defeat bosses and stuff like that. So, in some cases though, which I found, I found out about the fact that going back into the previous 2 games is actually hard to get back into these days now, just because of this archaic design choices here and there. And on top of that, with the forms of that particular, well, don't get me wrong, I still do enjoy the first 2 games, but it's just that going back into them too is actually very difficult to handle, so, but that's just me. So now we can able to actually do multiple bombs, so that means we can able to, like, put out some bombs and then able to explode on certain blocks, so that way we can able to proceed different portions throughout the majority of this planet. So that seems all top-notch, all things considered. And as you can see on this map, it does say the S on top of that particular room as far as I'm going to go into right now. That actually acts as a save point. So, but I'll explain more of that in a second. So in some cases though, let's just go in here. And believe it or not, there's another missile expansion. So I believe we're now on, I would say 15 of these things. So in some cases though, yeah, as I mentioned this before, we will definitely gonna go for 100% completion of this entire playthrough. So sometimes it might take a while though, especially noticeable because sometimes the controls in this game, well, it's perfect, don't get me wrong, but I need to able to learn some new tricks here and there and new stuff in my sleeves. So I mean, there are a few times though I will get messed up at one point, but either way though, I'm sure I got this. So anyway, so there's the first save, the save system right here. Well, at least technically if you don't want to count the actual mothership. So in some cases though, that it plays pretty much exactly like the forms of how it does it in Metroid 2, Return of Samus, except this time, that you don't need to able to actually press the start button in order to able to save the game if you find yourself the actual save spot. So in some cases though, it's actually a little bit more easy to manage as far as that's been concerned with, I guess. So anyways though, I think the next area we need to hit into is this little slant right there, which actually takes you to another portion of Brimstone, believe it or not. So in some cases though, let's use the Morph Ball right here. Use the Morph Ball bombs in the process, which we already just somehow used. And hopefully we'll just make our run for it. Now I apologize for that particular that door shut, because I'm pretty sure Shadow just somehow got ticked off again after the events of what he was suffering through for all that humanity and all that stuff, which typical of Shadow, he's always been like this for every single moment. So anyways, here's the first energy tank in the game, which, just like the forms of how it does in both Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, basically as you can see, we got ourselves the actual square on the top left corner, on top of the forms of that energy health. So this means you get yourselves about 100 health plus. So yeah, that makes things a lot more manageable if you really want to try to survive for this entire planet all by itself. Oh, by the way, with these certain space pirates, sometimes they love to defend themselves sometimes, although relatively speaking though, it's actually not too shabby to take them down by simply just use the regular missile, and that's usually for the best, as far as I'm aware. However, there are certain disadvantages when it comes to certain, like, weapon usage for certain space pirates until specifically later on though, but then again we'll point out whenever we get into it, so anyway, so let's just go ahead and go for this little entire room right here. And as you can see, we actually stumbled across into this familiar statue, but in addition to able to bringing back not only that two familiar faces, but also there's also two new faces, which we'll point it out whenever we get into it at some point throughout the game. But I'm pretty sure the other two familiar ones, as far as I've spotted, which there are, I know one of them is Kraid, and then the other one is Ridley, so I'm very curious to see what the other two were. So this might be new to me though, so in some cases though, again, that's the thing I loved about the forms of the Metroid games for me sometimes, is that, you know, trying to explore something new, or in some cases discover new bosses and stuff like that, feels quite intriguing, all things considered, so but anyway, oh yeah, and another thing too is the fact that recently the first Frozen film, in some cases though, Disney Frozen, that film has been out for about 9 years now, since 2013. So gee, I can't believe that particular film has been out for quite a long time now. So anyway, and another thing too, Disney Flopper, that you know with Robin Williams is actually in it. Apparently that film has been out for 25 years ago, so I'm not too crazy with that particular film. I mean, for some reason, when I was young, that for whatever reason I just somehow enjoyed it for what it is, but looking back in it right now, it feels kind of, well, awkward. Like, somewhat feels a bit awkward. But that's just me anyway though, so Anyway, so as you probably already know, that's about the fact the matter is though, we've only got about one more day left until we're approaching on to the final month of 2022, which appears to be December. So anyway, so now we've actually accessed to another map to Brome Star itself. So in some cases though, we actually stumbled across into ourselves certain landmarks here and there. But hopefully we'll try to find you know, certain stuff, as I said before, so hopefully it won't be taking too long though, but there were a few times though that we have to deal with some of those, you know, tricky movesets to pull off, which I suppose we should probably mention more about it until whenever we continue proceeding for this. So anyways, let's activate the pink door right here. So we just want to see what's beyond over here. So we'll grab the missile tank first of all. So there is technically other items up ahead, but I don't think we can be fast enough in order able to make it for not only for that particular security door, but also with the other doors as well. So we'll be back for that eventually if we learn some more new moves, or in some cases though, we've able to actually upgrade certain stuff here and there. So anyways though, so let's go ahead and shoot that pink door again, and exponentially we were able to find something beyond over here. Well, after we able to actually just try to dodge these little flies right there. They kind of reminds me of one of those enemies from the likes of in Mega Man 4 in Brightman stage. Like basically if you somehow accidentally, oh, we got ourselves a missile recharge station, so that's actually quite convenient. Similar to the forms of how it does it on Metroid 2 sometimes, that there's also a recharging stations here and there. So in some cases though, yeah, nothing right to home about when it comes to that. You know, that familiar thing returns around here, so anyways, let's go and continue. And yeah, there's not much else I can talk about, but either way though, we can just simply just make our journey a little bit more comfortable to manage. So in some cases though is the fact that, in fact, I've seen a lot of speedruns of this game. They did manage to able to get done quite a lot of speedrun sequence breaking, which this is all due to one specific thing. That's what appears to be a new ability that Samus can pull off. That's what appears to be the wall jump ability, which it might be difficult to execute, I will admit though right away, but when you get the hang of it though, it might not be too bad actually. But either way though, this is my first time experiencing this, so yeah, I wasn't expecting about the fact that, oh yeah, I do remember that one time back in the forms event 2014, at least as far as I recall correctly, that originally I was expecting to be able to do this game back in 2014, but unfortunately though, that particular Let's Play back in the day has been cancelled due to not only for its technical shortcomings, but also that every time whenever we do manage to able to insert the capture card or anything else to be more specific, that we got ourselves a blue screen crash. So in some cases though, yeah, I wasn't too thrilled about, but luckily we're now on 2022, so we shouldn't be having that much issues anymore. Especially noticeable because thankfully we can now able to hear a good old game audio, and on top of that, well, just anything really within my, you know, commentary alike and all the other jazz. So that makes things a lot more easy to manage and stuff like that. So I know there's technically something up there, but of course we haven't exactly got to that particular upgrade yet, but don't worry, we will be back for that. But there's also, you can able to pull off a special technique called the wall jump technique, which I already mentioned about this briefly, but in order able to successfully try to pull this off, in fact we'll just try to try our best if we could make this work. But if not, then I'll be back for that until whenever we get something manageable. So in some cases though, yeah, I haven't exactly learned that technique, so but I will try to get some bit of practice of that technique at some point. But either way though, not now though, just because we're gonna have to do the game as normally as far as this is attempted, so. But at the very least, we got ourselves another missile tank expansion, so That would be pretty swell, if I have to say so. And I think beyond over there, this is where we find one of those beam upgrades. So in some cases though, we have the charge beam, which I think this is actually the introduction to the charge beam throughout the majority of the Metroid games of the entire series, believe it or not. So, or at least I might be wrong. So in some cases though, yeah, for charge beam, you can now able to actually charge your beam shots, and you can able to actually make things a lot more easy if you're having a hard time with certain enemy encounters or anything else to be more specific. So in some cases though, yeah, I very appreciate to see, you know, the charge beam does exist. So, pretty swell, if I have to say so for this point. So, anyway, so let's just go ahead and continue things on here, and I think we should probably be able to actually go back up a bit. Although, first off, let me just go ahead and fill up my health meter again, so in some cases, because I'm probably not gonna able to get the game over for this entire Let's Play, so let's just hope that won't happen. So, I'm gonna say, I really love the music in this game so far. It's certainly a lot better than the forms of how it does it on the, let's just say, limitations from the sake of the forms of Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, just because of how the fact that the problem I have with Metroid 2, the Metroid 2 soundtrack though, is that not only because of its the themes themselves are a little bit dull in my opinion when it comes to the music choices, but sometimes though it might be felt a lot more awkward on certain areas or certain rooms because, well, again, it's probably because of the limitations of the Game Boy itself, but either way though, that's as far as saying goes, that's pretty much as far as I can think about it. Oh yeah, I just want to classify for something as well, that, yes, we now ended up in the next Mario Kart Tour event, which is, today is the forms of another flipping team rally thing again. I'm serious. I'm sorry. I can't stress enough about the fact that I just not a big fan of the forms of the team rally tours in the likes of Mario Kart Tour at this right now. Just because, not only because it feels entirely luck based, but also every time whenever I do somehow manage to able to like, I don't know, choose my predictions for the actual teammates and stuff like that. Sometimes though, we ended up getting very unlucky, and on top of all that stuff though, that, still, I'm just not a big fan of the actual team rally system, which, I know it's cool though, but it's just, it's not my kind of thing. So in some cases though, I was very disappointed. But, at the very least, it does have some bit of content for the sake of the forms of, well, the team rally they decided to choose is, for whatever reason, is exactly the same team character rally as the forms of Sense in spring this year. That's what appears to be both Peach versus Bowser tour. In some cases though, yeah, I wasn't really too thrilled about it, and especially because, not only because about the fact that we gonna have to go for another team rally, like I said before, but I think to me though, this is where the thing starts to get really lazy and start reusing the exact same stuff over and over again, as far as I can usually tell for this point, but either way though, that might be saying something as far as I'm usually concerned with that stuff, so. But that's just me. And, I'm honestly trying to think about it, and I have no idea why I somehow accidentally paused right there, because, well, I just want to able to actually get the actual boss fights a little bit faster to manage, but sometimes though, that it seems kind of feels like a waiting game sometimes, but either way though, it might not bother it doesn't bother me at all, I don't think. It's just that sometimes it takes a bit of time to able to get used to with all the things itself as far as I'm aware, so. Oh, and by the way, the second boss fight as we already fight against into from the beginning of the game, I think this, the second boss's name was, Bomb Chozo. So in some cases though, there's not much else to say. So in this case, the next boss we're going to be fighting against in this particular area, as you can see, this what appears to be Buddy forms of his name was, Spore Spawn. I think that's what his boss fight itself is anyway. So in some cases though, he will definitely try to able to hurt you if you dare touch the spikes. So in some cases though, sometimes that you have to be cautious about this fight. So in some cases though, that especially if you dare touch the spikes, then obviously your energy meter will drain, so... But either way, so, yeah, it's just about the fact the matter is though, is the fact that I just found this a little bit weird to able to have Peach versus Bowser for the second time in this year so far. So in some cases though, that I highly doubt until specifically next 2 weeks, I'm hoping we're not going to come across into a team rally system ever again, because, again, I'll point things out whenever we get into the, I would say the halfway point of December essentially. So in some cases though, about the fact that, well, either way. So in terms of content we're expecting to be getting for Peach versus Bowser tour, and that is the fact that we got ourselves technically a new driver, which is apparently another cosmetic character, which appears to be this time around though is Blue Shy Guy. So in some cases though, he was going to be a part of the forms of super character rating as far as I'm aware. And the new Mii racing suits they do include is a Rocky Wrench Mii racing suit, which it does have a special power-up or a special item, which appears to be the hammer, because obviously, you know, Rocky Wrench just loves to throw stuff, so it makes a pretty obvious sense, doesn't it? So anyways though, that concludes the third boss, as you can see, and we'll just go ahead and grab some more health pickups, including certain missiles as well. So in some cases though, we can now able to proceed to the next area, so pretty swell I have to say so. So anyways, let's go for this door. And from here, not only does it contain some more of those health refill station or something like that, when it comes to killing all sorts of enemies as far as that's been concerned with, but also, whoa, there's a massive drop. But hey, at least you can able to turn into a Morph Ball in midair though, so that's saying something. And this is where we get ourselves the first introduction into the super missiles, which I think I briefly mentioned about it earlier, but either way though, I somehow accidentally just said that at the very beginning of the playthrough. But as you can tell, we can now able to use super missiles, which all these things can do. It's actually a little bit more powerful than the forms of how it does it on the regular missiles. But also, you notice about the fact that we've already come across into several of, well, I think we've already come across into one of those. Well, there's one green door over there, speaking of which. Basically, in order to able to activate these green doors is that, well, we have to simply use super missiles in order to able to open these kinds of doors. So, not that challenging to able to figure this out. Oh, and there are also certain areas that you do need to able to use super missiles in order to able to actually access them. So, yeah, that's all I can say about these super missiles alike. So anyway, in terms of these cards they're able to actually include, which are Pink Speeder, Black Sneaker, I think that's what it says anyway, and Pink Sneaker, and Gold Bruiser. So in some cases though, yeah, that's pretty much as far as I can say about those card parts for, I don't think there's any new gliders they are able to introduce into that particular tour in mind. But, on the other hand, in terms of tracks themselves, there's actually 2 new tracks that's going to be revealed for the sake of that particular tour, which is another variation of Astrodome Drift 3. In this case, though, that's, yes, basically the 3rd variation of, you know, the track that's very based off from Neverland. But, out of nowhere, we actually get ourselves Peach Gardens returning in Mario Kart Tour. So, not only do I have to wait until next week now for the Superior Switch version is going to exist, but for the time being, I'm just pretty much going to have to stuck with Mario Kart Tour variation instead, so... And for me, that's just disappoints me. I know I keep on saying this before, but it bears repeating. Like, for instance, Mario Kart Tour still is my least favorite games in terms of the Mario Kart games I've played. And not to mention though, it's just the fact that with this awkward controls that just seems to bothers the heck out of me. And it's not that great for me though. But anyways though, so let's just go ahead and mention something else for this matter though, and that is the fact that apparently though, that we got ourselves another anniversary that just came up just earlier ago, ever since I would say since the 27th of November, I'm presuming so, that basically, happy 24th anniversary of the release of the Sega Dreamcast for the Japanese release. So, yeah, until by that time, until next year, that the Sega Dreamcast will eventually become 25 years old until next year. So, yeah, that should be pretty exciting, all things considered. Especially I still find that console to be a pretty underrated gem in my opinion. So, anyway, so the next thing we would like to mention is that, remember that particular, the rumor thing I keep mentioning about with all that? I can't even believe that the horror version of Bambi is going to be in development, which I think the title is going to be called Bambi the Retconning, as far as I'm aware. But again, it's all just a rumor though. It's just a rumor, just because I just seriously find this to be a lot more stranger than I've ever seen in my whole entire life. So, anyway. So I suppose the last thing I wanted to mention, and that is the fact that, well, apparently, DreamWorks Animation is probably getting itself its new theatrical opener around the same time as when it, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is going to be on the cinemas. So in some cases though, that'll be the first time ever that they will reveal the new logo for DreamWorks Animation, until, you know, when Puss in Boots: The Last Wish will make its release on the big screen. At least the North American version, because, unfortunately though, similar to the forms of how it does it on Wreck-It Ralph back in 2013, we have to wait until the UK version of the film will be releasing until 2023 in the UK on the big screen. So, kind of a missed opportunity around here, but I'm guessing it's probably because of the Avatar: The Way of Water is going to be on its way or something. So, anyway, so what it does feature with the new logo though, is the fact that we got ourselves some pretty cool references from other DreamWorks movies, like ranging from The Bad Guys, How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda, The Boss Baby for some reason, Trolls, and especially noticeable with the Shrek films, because it seems very obvious about the fact that Shrek is always going to be there, so, which obviously features the bad guys, and Toothless, Poe, Ted, Templeton, Poppy, and Shrek, Donkey, and Fiona, which is actually pretty cool though, at least as far as I can tell. So anyways, we got endings off this point right here, I'm afraid guys, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Super Metroid. Is the fact that we'll continue exploring through certain areas throughout the majority of Planet Zebes as far as, you know, anything as far as this is concerned. So I'll see you guys next time. Later fellas, I apologize for that glitchy commentary earlier though.